The Torah SKJV, Simplified King James Version. By Rodney Horrell. Copyright 2017. Genesis. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, Let there be a firmament in the middle of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together to one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and called the gathering together of the waters seas, and God saw that it was good. And God said, Let the earth bring out grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself, upon the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought out grass, and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself, after its kind, and God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness, and God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And God said, Let the waters bring out abundantly the moving creature that has life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moves, which the waters brought out abundantly, after their kind, and every winged fowl after its kind, and God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, Let the earth bring out the living creature after its kind, cattle, and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after its kind, and it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after its kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creeps upon the earth after its kind, and God saw that it was good. And God said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So God created man in his own image, in the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. And God blessed them, and God said to them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. And God said, Look, I have given you every herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creeps upon the earth, which has life in itself, I have given every green herb for food, and it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and, there, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. And so the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day, and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, in the day that Jehovah God made the earth and the heavens. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, for Jehovah God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And Jehovah God formed man out of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And Jehovah God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man which he had formed. And out of the ground Jehovah God made to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food. The tree of life also was in the middle of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it was parted, and became 4 heads. The name of the first is Pison, it surrounded the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good, there is bdellium and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon, the same is that which surrounded the whole land of Ethiopia. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel, it goes towards the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates. And Jehovah God took the man, and put him into the garden of Eden to work it and to keep it. And Jehovah God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it, for in the day that you eat of it you shall surely die. And Jehovah God said, It is not good that the man should be alone, I will make him a helpmate for him. And out of the ground Jehovah God formed every beast of the field, and every fowl of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them, and whatever Adam called every living creature, that was its name. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field, but for Adam there was not found a helpmate for him. And Jehovah God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh underneath. And the rib, which Jehovah God had taken from man, he made a woman, and brought her to the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh, she shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cling to his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which Jehovah God had made. And he said to the woman, Is it so, has God said, You both shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, You both shall not eat of it, neither shall you both touch it, or else you both die. And the serpent said to the woman, You both shall not surely die. For God does know that in the day you both eat of it, then your eyes shall be opened, and you both shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit, and did eat, and also gave to her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of Jehovah God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Jehovah God among the trees of the garden. And Jehovah God called to Adam, and said to him, Where are you? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree, which I commanded you that you should not eat? And the man said, The woman who you gave to be with me, she gave me from the tree, and I ate. And Jehovah God said to the woman, What is this that you have done? And the woman said, The serpent deceived me, and I did eat. And Jehovah God said to the serpent, Because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field, upon your belly shall you go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed, it shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception, in sorrow you shall bring out children, and your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall rule over you. And to Adam he said, Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree, of which I commanded you, saying, You shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake, in sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of your life. Also thorns and thistles shall it bring up to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it were you taken, for dust you are, and to dust shall you return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Also to Adam and to his wife did Jehovah God make coats of skins, and clothed them. And Jehovah God said, Look, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil, and now, if he puts out his hand, and takes of the tree of life also, and eats, and lives forever. Therefore Jehovah God sent him out from the Garden of Eden, to till the ground from where he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword which turned every way, to keep the way of the tree of life. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived, and bore Cain, and said, I have gained a man from Jehovah. And she again bore his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process of time it came to pass, that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering to Jehovah. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and the fat of it. And Jehovah had respect to Abel and to his offering. But to Cain and to his offering he did not respect. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. And Jehovah said to Cain, Why are you angry? And why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, shall you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door. And to you shall be its desire, and you shall rule over it. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and killed him. And Jehovah said to Cain, Where is Abel your brother? And he said, I do not know, am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. And now are you cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall not again yield to you its strength, a fugitive and a wanderer shall you be in the earth. And Cain said to Jehovah, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Look, you have driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from your face shall I hide, and I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer in the earth, and it shall come to pass, that everyone that finds me shall kill me. And Jehovah said to him, Therefore whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him 7 times. And Jehovah set a mark upon Cain, so that anyone finding him should not kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of Jehovah, and dwelt in the land of Nod, in the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived, and bore Enoch, and he built a city, and called the name of the city, after the name of his son, Enoch. And to Enoch was born Irad, and Irad had Mehujael, and Mehujael had Methusael, and Methusael had Lamech. And Lamech took to himself 2 wives, the name of one was Adah, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Adah bore Jabal, he was the father of such who dwell in tents, and of such that have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal, he was the father of all those that handle the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bore Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, and the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, Hear my voice, both my wives of Lamech, hear my speech, for I have slain a man for my wounding, and a young man for my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged 7 times, truly Lamech 77 times. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and called his name Seth, for God, said she, has appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then they began defiling by calling out against the name of Jehovah. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God he made him. Male and female he created them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, in the day when they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and had a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he had fathered Seth were 800 years, and he had sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years, and had Enos. And Seth lived after he had Enos 807 years, and had sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years, and had Cainan. And Enos lived after he had Cainan 815 years, and had sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Cainan lived 70 years, and had Mahalaleel. And Cainan lived after he had Mahalaleel 840 years, and had sons and daughters. And all the days of Cainan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalaleel lived 65 years, and had Jared. And Mahalaleel lived after he had Jared 830 years, and had sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalaleel were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years, and he had Enoch. And Jared lived after he had Enoch 800 years, and had sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years, and had Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he had Methuselah 300 years, and had sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And Methuselah lived 187 years, and had Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he had Lamech 782 years, and had sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years, and had a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which Jehovah has cursed. And Lamech lived after he had Noah 595 years, and had sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah had Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were beautiful, and they took themselves wives of all which they chose. And Jehovah said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them, the same were giants which were of old, men of renown. And Jehovah saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented Jehovah that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And Jehovah said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for I repent that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of Jehovah. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. And Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and, there, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said to Noah, The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and, there, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, you shall make rooms in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without with pitch. And you shall make the fashion of this, the length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the width of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. You shall make a window in the ark, and you shall finish it above in a cubit, and you shall set there in the side of it the door of the ark, you shall make it with lower, second, and third stories. And look, I, even I, am bringing a flood of waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh, which is the breath of life, from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. But with you will I establish my covenant, and you shall come into the ark, you, and your sons, and your wife, and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shall you bring into the ark, to keep them alive with you, they shall be male and female. Of fowls after their kind, and of cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after its kind, 2 of every sort shall come to you, to keep them alive. And take to yourself of all food that is eaten, and you shall gather it to yourself, and it shall be for food for you, and for them. So Noah did, according to all that God commanded him, so he did. And Jehovah said to Noah, Come you and all your house into the ark, for you have I seen righteous before me in this generation. You shall take to yourself by 7s of every clean beast, the male and his female, and by 2 of beasts that are not clean, the male and his female. Of fowls also of the air by 7s, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according to all that Jehovah commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters came upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him, into the ark, because of the waters of the flood. Of clean beasts, and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls, and of everything that creeps upon the earth. There went in 2 and 2 to Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days, that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In this same day entered Noah, and Shem, and Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them, into the ark. they, and every beast after its kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth after its kind, and every fowl after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went into Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, where there is the breath of life. And they that went in male and female of all flesh, as God had commanded him, and Jehovah shut him in. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased, and bore up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. And the waters prevailed, and were increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went upon the face of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills, that were under the whole heaven, were covered. 15 cubits upwards did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl, and of cattle, and of beast, and of every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, and every man. All in whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land, died. And every living substance was destroyed which was upon the face of the ground, both man, and cattle, and the creeping things, and the fowl of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth, and Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. And God remembered Noah, and every living thing, and all the cattle that were with him in the ark, and God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided. The fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. And the waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days the waters were abated. And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days, that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. And he sent out a raven, which went out to and fro, until the waters were dried up from off the earth. Also he sent out a dove from him, to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the flat part of her foot, and she returned to him into the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Then he put out his hand, and took her, and pulled her into himself into the ark. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and again he sent out the dove out of the ark. And the dove came in to him in the evening, and, look, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off, so Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and sent out the dove, which did not return again to him any more. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the 1st month, the 1st day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and there, the face of the ground was dry. And in the 2nd month, on the 27th day of the month, was the earth dried. And God spoke to Noah, saying, Go out of the ark, you, and your wife, and your sons wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing that is with you, of all flesh, both of fowl, and of cattle, and of every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, that they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful, and multiply upon the earth. And Noah went out, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every fowl, and whatever creeps upon the earth, after their kinds, went out outside of the ark. And Noah built an altar to Jehovah, and took of every clean beast, and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And Jehovah smelled a sweet savor, and Jehovah said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, neither will I again strike any more everything living, as I have done. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said to them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moves upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea, they are delivered into your hand. Every moving thing that lives shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life in it, which is in the blood, shall you all not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require, at the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. And you, be fruitful all of you, and multiply, bring out abundantly in the earth, and multiply in it. And God spoke to Noah, and to his sons with him, saying, And look, I establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you. And with every living creature that is with you, of the fowl, of the cattle, and of every beast of the earth with you, from all that go out of the ark, to every beast of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you, neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you, for everlasting generations. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said to Noah, This is the token of the covenant, which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. And the sons of Noah, that went out of the ark, were Shem, and Ham, and Japheth, and Ham is the father of Canaan. These are the 3 sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. And Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine, and was drunk, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his 2 brothers outside. And Shem and Japheth took a garment, and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backwards, and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they did not see their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew what his younger son had done to him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be to his brothers. And he said, Blessed be Jehovah God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years. And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and to them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Rephath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. By these were the coasts of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sapta, and Ramah, and Sapcha, and the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush had Nimrod, he began to be a giant in the earth. He was a giant hunter before Jehovah, therefore it is said, even as Nimrod the giant hunter before Jehovah. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. Out of that land went out Asshur, and built Nineveh, and the city Rehoboth, and Calah. And Resen between Nineveh and Calah, the same is a great city. And Mizraim had Ludim, and Anamim, and Lehabim, and Naphtuhim, and Pathrusim, and Casluhim, out of whom came Philistim, and Caphtorim. And Canaan had Sidon his firstborn, and Hate, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgasite, and the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite, and the Arvadite, and the Zamarite, and the Hamathite, and afterwards were the families of the Canaanites spread out. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as you come to Gerar, to Gaza, as you go, to Sodom, and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zeboim, even to Lusha. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, and in their nations. To Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder, even to him were children born. The children of Shem, Elam, and Asshur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. And the children of Aram, Uz, and Hul, and Gether, and Mash. And Arphaxad had Salah, and Salah had Eber. And to Eber were born 2 sons, the name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan had Almodad, and Sheleph, and Hazarmaveth, and Jerah, and Hadoram, and Uzal, and Diklah, and Obal, and Abimael, and Sheba. and Ophir, and Havilah, and Jobab, all these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling was from Mesha, as you go to Sephar, a mountain of the east. These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations, in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. And the whole earth was of one language, and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach to heaven, and let us make us a name, or else we may be scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And Jehovah came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men built. And Jehovah said, Look, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So Jehovah scattered them from there upon the face of all the earth, and they left off from building the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because Jehovah did there confound the language of all the earth, and from there did Jehovah scatter them upon the face of all the earth. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old, and had Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he had Arphaxad 500 years, and had sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 35 years, and had Salah. And Arphaxad lived after he had Salah 403 years, and had sons and daughters. And Salah lived 30 years, and had Eber. And Salah lived after he had Eber 403 years, and had sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years, and had Peleg. And Eber lived after he had Peleg 430 years, and had sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years, and had Ru. And Peleg lived after he had Ru 209 years, and had sons and daughters. And Ru lived 32 years, and had Serug. And Ru lived after he had Serug 207 years, and had sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years, and had Nahor. And Serug lived after he had Nahor 200 years, and had sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years, and had Terah. And Nahor lived after he had Terah 119 years, and had sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years, and had Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah had Abram, Nahor, and Haran had Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his birth, in Ur of the Chaldees. And Abram and Nahor took for themselves wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. But Sarai was barren, she had no child. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went out with them from Ur of the Chaldees, to go into the land of Canaan, and they came to Haran, and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Now Jehovah had said to Abram, Get yourself out of your country, and from your relatives, and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless you, and curse the one that curses you, and in you shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed, as Jehovah had spoken to him, and Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gained in Haran, and they went out to go into the land of Canaan, and they came into the land of Canaan. And Abram passed through the land to the place of Sichem, to the plain of Moreh. And the Canaanite was in the land at that time. And Jehovah appeared to Abram, and said, To your seed will I give this land, and there he built an altar to Jehovah, who appeared to him. And he removed from there to a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east, and there he built an altar to Jehovah, and called upon the name of Jehovah. And Abram journeyed, going on still towards the south. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to reside there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he had come near to enter into Egypt, that he said to Sarai his wife, Look now, I know that you are a beautiful woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see you, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save you alive. Say, now, you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, and my soul shall live because of you. And it came to pass, that, when Abram had come into Egypt, the Egyptians looked at the woman, for she was very beautiful. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her, and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he treated Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep, and oxen, and male donkeys, and menservants, and maidservants, and she-donkeys, and camels. And Jehovah plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram, and said, What is this that you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, She is my sister? So I might have taken her to me to be my wife. Now therefore look at your wife, take her, and go your way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he, and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai. To the place of the altar, which he had made there at the first, and there Abram called on the name of Jehovah. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks, and herds, and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's cattle and the herdsmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled then in the land. And Abram said to Lot, Let there be no strife, now, between me and you, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are relations. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself, now, from me. If you will take the left hand, then I will go to the right, or if you depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and looked at all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before Jehovah destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of Jehovah, like the land of Egypt, as you come to Zoar. Then Lot chose for himself all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves, the one from the other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent towards Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before Jehovah exceedingly. And Jehovah said to Abram, after Lot was separated from him, Lift up now your eyes, and look from the place where you are northward, and southward, and eastward, and westward. For all the land which you see, to you will I give it, and to your seed forever. And I will make your seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall your seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the width of it, for I will give it to you. Then Abram removed his tent, and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar to Jehovah. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel king of Shinar, Arioch king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer king of Elam, and Tidal king of nations, that these made war with Barak king of Sodom, and with Birsha king of Gomorrah, Shinab king of Admah, and Shem-eber king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. All these were joined together in the valley of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer, and the kings that were with him, and struck the Rephaims in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Emims in Shaveh-Kiriathaim, and the Horites in their mountain Seir, to El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they returned, and came to Enmishpat, which is Kadesh, and struck all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, that dwelt in Hazezontamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same is Zoar, and they joined battle with them in the valley of Siddim. With Chedorlaomer the king of Elam, and with Tidal king of nations, and Amraphel king of Shinar, and Arioch king of Elasar, 4 kings with 5. And the valley of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their food, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them to Dan. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and struck them, and pursued them to Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his relative Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him, at the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's valley. And Melchizedek king of Salem brought out bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him, and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to yourself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand to Jehovah, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is yours, or else you should say, I have made Abram rich. Except only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. After these things the word of Jehovah came to Abram in a vision, saying, Do not fear, Abram, I am your shield, and your exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Lord Jehovah, what will you give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, Look, to me you have given no seed, and, look, one born in my house is my heir. And, there, the word of Jehovah came to him, saying, This shall not be your heir, but he that shall come out outside of your own bowels shall be your heir. And he brought him out outside, and said, Look now towards heaven, and count the stars, if you are able to number them, and he said to him, So shall your seed be. And he believed in Jehovah, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said to him, I am Jehovah that brought you out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give you this land to inherit it. And he said, Lord Jehovah, how shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said to him, Take a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took to himself all these, and divided them in the middle, and laid each piece one against another, but the birds he didn't divide. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and, look, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said to Abram, Know for sure that your seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation, whom they shall serve, will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. And you shall go to your fathers in peace, you shall be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall come here again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And it came to pass, that, when the sun went down, and it was dark, there a smoking furnace, and a burning lamp passed between those pieces. In the same day Jehovah made a covenant with Abram, saying, To your seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates. The Kenites, and the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Now Sarai Abram's wife bore him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, Look now, Jehovah has restrained me from bearing, now, go into my maid, it may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai Abram's wife took Hagar her maid the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said to Abram, My wrong be upon you, I have given my maid into your bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes, Jehovah judge between me and you. But Abram said to Sarai, Look, your maid is in your hand, do to her as it pleases you. And when Sarai afflicted her, she fled from her face. And the angel of Jehovah found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, where did you come from? And where will you go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. And the angel of Jehovah said to her, Return to your mistress, and submit yourself under her hands. And the angel of Jehovah said to her, I will multiply your seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for abundance. And the angel of Jehovah said to her, Look, you are with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because Jehovah has heard your affliction. And he will be a wild man, his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brothers. And she called the name of Jehovah that spoke to her, You God see me, for she said, Also here have I looked behind him that sees me. Therefore the well was called Beer-lahai-roi, there, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bore, Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old, when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. And when Abram was 99 years old, Jehovah appeared to Abram, and said to him, I am the Almighty God, walk before me, and be perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, look, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. Neither shall your name any more be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. And I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come out of you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God to you, and to your seed after you. And I will give to you, and to your seed after you, the land where you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said to Abraham, You shall keep my covenant therefore, you, and your seed after you in their generations. This is my covenant, which you all shall keep, between me and you and your seed after you, every man-child among you shall be circumcised. And all of you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant between me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man-child in your generations, he that is born in the house, or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of your seed. He that is born in your house, and he that is bought with your money, must be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised man-child whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people, he has broken my covenant. And God said to Abraham, As for Sarai your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and give you a son also of her, yes, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations, kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face, and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born to him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear? And Abraham said to God, O that Ishmael might lie before you. And God said, Sarah your wife shall bear you a son indeed, and you shall call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you, look, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly, he shall have 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear to you at the set time in the next year. And he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the same day, as God had said to him. And Abraham was 99 years old, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. In the same day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son. And all the men of his house, born in the house, and bought with money of the stranger, were circumcised with him. And Jehovah appeared to him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and, look, 3 men stood by him, and when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself towards the ground. And said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in your sight, do not pass away, now, from your servant. Let a little water, now, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort all your hearts, after that all of you shall pass on, therefore this is why you have all come to your servant. And they said, so do, as you have said. And Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah, and said, make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abraham ran to the herd, and fetched a calf that was tender and good, and gave it to a young man, and he hurried to prepare it. And he took butter and milk and the calf which he had prepared, and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. And they said to him, where is Sarah your wife? And he said, look, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return to you according to the time of life, and, look, Sarah your wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it had ceased to be with Sarah after the way of women. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I have become old shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? And Jehovah said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I indeed bear a child, when I am old? Is anything too hard for Jehovah? At the time appointed I will return to you, according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, no, but you did laugh. And the men rose up from there, and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And Jehovah said, shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Jehovah, to do justice and judgment, that Jehovah may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. And Jehovah said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous. I will go down now, and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come to me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from there, and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood before Jehovah. And Abraham drew near, and said, will you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Perhaps there are 50 righteous within the city, will you also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are there? That be far from you to do after this word, to kill the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked, that be far from you, shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And Jehovah said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, look now, I have taken upon myself to speak to Jehovah, which I am but dust and ashes. Perhaps there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous, will you destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, if I find there 45, I will not destroy it. And he spoke to him yet again, and said, perhaps there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said to him, O let not Jehovah be angry, and I will speak, perhaps 30 shall be found there. And he said, I will not do it, if I find 30 there. And he said, look now, I have taken upon myself to speak to Jehovah, perhaps 20 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, O let not Jehovah be angry, and I will speak yet but this once, perhaps 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And Jehovah went his way, as soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. And there came 2 angels to Sodom at evening, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot seeing them rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground. And he said, Look now, my lords, turn in, now, into your servant's house, and stay all night, and wash your feet, and you both shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, No, but we will remain in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned into him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, surrounded the house, both old and young, all the people from every part. And they called to Lot, and said to him, Where are the men which came in to you this night? Bring them out to us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door to them, and shut the door after him. And said, Now, brothers, do not do so wickedly. Look now, I have 2 daughters which have not known a man, let me, now, bring them out to you, and do to them, all of you, as is good in your eyes, only to these men do nothing, for this is why they came under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came in to reside, and will he now be a judge? Now will we deal worse with you, than with them. And they pressed mightily upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put out their hand, and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. And they struck the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said to Lot, Have you here anyone else besides son-in-law, and your sons, and your daughters, and whatever you have in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is very great before the face of Jehovah, and Jehovah has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out, and spoke to his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get yourselves out of this place, for Jehovah will destroy the city. But he seemed as one that mocked to his sons-in-law. And when the morning arose, then the angels hurried Lot, saying, Arise, take your wife, and your 2 daughters, which are here, or else you will be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, Jehovah being merciful to him, and they brought him out, and set him outside the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them out outside, that he said, Escape for your life, do not look behind you, neither shall you stay in all the plain, escape to the mountain, or else you will be consumed. And Lot said to them, Oh, not so, my lord. Look now, your servant has found grace in your sight, and you have magnified your mercy, which you have shown to me in saving my life, and I cannot escape to the mountain, or else some evil take me, and I die. Look now, this city is near to flee to, and it is a little one, oh, let me escape to there, is it not a little one, and my soul shall live. And he said to him, See, I have accepted you concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow the city, for which you have spoken. You, hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you go there. Therefore the name of the city was called Zor. The sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zor. Then Jehovah rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Jehovah out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before Jehovah. And he looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah, and towards all the land of the plain, and looked, and, look, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the middle of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot dwelt. And Lot went up out of Zor, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zor, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come into us after the way of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in, and lay with her father, and he did not perceive when she lay down, or when she arose. And it came to pass on the next day, that the firstborn said to the younger, Look, I lay last night with my father, let us make him drink wine this night also, and you go in, and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose, and lay with him, and he did not perceive when she lay down, or when she arose. So were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bore a son, and called his name Moab, the same is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son, and called his name Ben-Ammi, the same is the father of the children of Ammon to this day. And Abraham journeyed from there towards the south country, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and resided in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister, and Abimelech king of Gerar sent, and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, Look, you are a dead man, for the woman which you have taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Lord, will you kill also a righteous nation? Did he not say to me, She is my sister? And she, even she herself said, He is my brother, in the integrity of my heart and innocence of my hands have I done this. And God said to him in a dream, Yeah, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me, therefore I did not allow you to touch her. Now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for you, and you shall live, and if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, you, and all that are yours. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and told all these things in their ears, and the men were exceedingly afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham, and said to him, What have you done to us? And what have I done to offend you, that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done deeds to me that ought not to be done. And Abimelech said to Abraham, What did you see, that you have done this thing? And Abraham said, Because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will kill me for my wife's sake. And yet indeed she is my sister, she is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, This is your kindness which you shall show to me, at every place where we shall come, say of me, He is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen and menservants, and maidservants, and gave them to Abraham, and restored to him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, Look, my land is before you, dwell where it pleases you. And to Sarah he said, Look, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver, look, he is to you a covering of the eyes, to all that are with you, and with all others, so she was reproved. So Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, and his wife, and his maidservants, and they bore children. For Jehovah had surely closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech, because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. And Jehovah visited Sarah as he had said, and Jehovah did to Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived, and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac being 8 days old, as God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old, when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. And she said, Who would have said to Abraham, Will Sarah suckle children? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew, and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had borne to Abraham, mocking. And she said to Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And God said to Abraham, Let it not be grievous in your sight because of the boy, and because of your bondwoman, in all that Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for in Isaac shall your seed be called. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is your seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread, and a bottle of water, and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and the child, and sent her away, and she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water was gone that was in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. And she went, and sat herself down over against him a good way off, about a bowshot, for she said, Let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him, and lifted up her voice, and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said to her, What Hagar? Do not fear, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Arise, lift up the boy, and hold him in your hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went, and filled the bottle with water, and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy, and he grew, and lived in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol the chief captain of his army spoke to Abraham, saying, God is with you in all that you do. Now therefore swear to me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me, or with my son, or with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done to you, you shall do to me, and to the land where you have resided. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this thing, neither did you tell me, neither have I heard of it, but today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave them to Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said to Abraham, What are these 7 ewe lambs which you have set by themselves? And he said, For these 7 ewe lambs shall you take of my hand, that they may be a witness to me, that I have dug this well. That is why he called that place Beersheba, because there they swore both of them. So they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech rose up, and Phicol the chief captain of his army, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and called there on the name of Jehovah, the everlasting God. And Abraham resided in the Philistines' land many days. And it came to pass after these things, that God did tempt Abraham, and said to him, Abraham, and he said, Look, here I am. And he said, Take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and get yourself into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I will tell you of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his male donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and split the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up, and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, Remain all of you here with the male donkey, and I and the boy will go over there and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid it upon Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand, and a knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spoke to Abraham his father, and said, My father, and he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, Look the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand, and took the knife to kill his son. And the angel of Jehovah called to him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham, and he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand upon the boy, nor do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes, and looked, and there behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by his horns, and Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah-Jireh, as it is said to this day, In the mountain of Jehovah it shall be seen. And the angel of Jehovah called to Abraham out of heaven the 2nd time, and said, By myself have I sworn, says Jehovah, for because you have done this thing, and have not withheld your son, your only son, that in blessing I will bless you, and in multiplying I will multiply your seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and your seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things, that it was told Abraham, saying, Look, Milcah, she has also borne children to your brother Nahor. Huz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Aram. And Chesed, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Jidlaph, and Bethuel. And Bethuel had Rebekah. These 8 did Milcah bear to Nahor, Abraham's brother. And his concubine, whose name was Reumah, she bore also Tebah, and Gaham, and Thahash, and Maachah. And Sarah was 127 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kirjatharba, the same is Hebron in the land of Canaan, and Abraham came to mourn for Sarah, and to weep for her. And Abraham stood up from before his dead, and spoke to the sons of Het, saying, I am a stranger and reside with you, give me a possession of a burial place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Het answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my lord, you are a mighty prince among us, in the choice of our burial places bury your dead, none of us shall withhold from you his burial place, but that you may bury your dead. And Abraham stood up, and bowed himself to the people of the land, even to the children of Het. And he communed with them, saying, If it is in your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and request for me to Ephron the son of Zohar, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is in the end of his field, for as much money as it is worth he shall give it to me for a possession of a burial place among you. And Ephron dwelt among the children of Het, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the audience of the children of Het, even of all that went in at the gate of his city, saying, No, my lord, hear me, the field I give you, and the cave that is there, I give it to you, in the presence of the sons of my people I give it to you, bury your dead. And Abraham bowed down himself before the people of the land. And he spoke to Ephron in the audience of the people of the land, saying, But if you will give it, now, hear me, I will give you money for the field, take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My lord, listen to me, the land is worth 400 shekels of silver, what is that between me and you? Therefore bury your dead. And Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed to Ephron the silver, which he had named in the audience of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, current money with the merchant. And the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which were there, and all the trees that were in the field, that were in all the borders around, were established to Abraham for a possession in the presence of the children of Heth, before all that went in at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, the same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And the field, and the cave that is there, were established to Abraham for a possession of a burial place by the sons of Heth. And Abraham was old, and going on in age, and Jehovah had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said to his eldest servant of his house, that ruled over all that he had, Put, now, your hand under my thigh. And I will make you swear by Jehovah, the God of heaven, and the God of the earth, that you shall not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell. But you shall go to my country, and to my relations, and take a wife to my son Isaac. And the servant said to him, Perhaps the woman will not be willing to follow me to this land, must I necessarily bring your son again to the land from where you came? And Abraham said to him, You beware that you do not bring my son there again. Jehovah God of heaven, which took me from my father's house, and from the land of my relations, and which spoke to me, and that swore to me, saying, To your seed will I give this land, he shall send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife to my son from there. And if the woman will not be willing to follow you, then you shall be clear from this my oath, only do not bring my son there again. And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning that word. And the servant took 10 camels of the camels of his master, and departed, for all the goods of his master were in his hand, and he arose, and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. And he made his camels to kneel down outside the city by a well of water at the time of the evening, even the time that women go out to draw water. And he said, O Jehovah God of my master Abraham, now, prosper my way before me this day, and show kindness to my master Abraham. Look, I stand here by the well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city come out to draw water. And let it come to pass, that the young woman to whom I shall say, Let down your jar, now, that I may drink, and she shall say, Drink, and I will give your camels drink also, let the same be her that you have appointed for your servant Isaac, and by it shall I know that you have shown kindness to my master. And it came to pass, before he had finished speaking, that, then, Rebekah came out, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her jar upon her shoulder. And the young woman was very beautiful to look upon, a virgin, neither had any man known her, and she went down to the well, and filled her jar, and came up. And the servant ran to meet her, and said, Let me, now, drink a little water from your jar. And she said, Drink, my lord, and she hurried, and let down her jar upon her hand, and gave him a drink. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels also, until they have finished drinking. And she hurried, and emptied her jar into the trough, and ran again to the well to draw water, and drew for all his camels. And the man was watching her and held his peace, to know whether Jehovah had made his journey prosperous or not. And it came to pass, as the camels had finished drinking, that the man took a golden earring of 1/2 shekel weight, and 2 bracelets for her hands of 10 shekels weight of gold. And said, Whose daughter are you? Tell me, please, is there room in your father's house for us to lodge in? And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel the son of Milcah, who she bore to Nahor. She said also to him, We have both straw and fodder enough, and room to lodge in. And the man bowed down his head, and worshipped Jehovah. And he said, Blessed be Jehovah God of my master Abraham, who has not left destitute my master of his mercy and his truth, I being in the way, Jehovah led me to the house of my master's brothers. And the young woman ran, and told them of her mother's house these things. And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban, and Laban ran out to the man, to the well. And it came to pass, when he saw the earring and bracelets upon his sister's hands, and when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, So spoke the man to me, that he came to the man, and, then, he stood by the camels at the well. And he said, Come in, you blessed of Jehovah, why do you stand outside? For I have prepared the house, and a room for the camels. And the man came into the house, and he unloaded his camels, and gave straw and fodder for the camels, and water to wash his feet, and the men's feet that were with him. And there was set food before him to eat, but he said, I will not eat, until I have told my errand. And he said, Speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant. And Jehovah has blessed my master greatly, and he has become great, and he has given him flocks and herds and silver, and gold, and menservants, and maidservants, and camels, and male donkeys. And Sarah my master's wife bore a son to my master when she was old, and to him has he given all that he has. And my master made me swear, saying, You shall not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell. But you shall go to my father's house, and to my relations, and take a wife to my son. And I said to my master, Perhaps the woman will not follow me. And he said to me, Jehovah, before whom I walk, will send his angel with you, and prosper your way, and you shall take a wife for my son of my relations, and of my father's house. Then shall you be clear from this my oath, when you come to my relations, and if they do not give you one, you shall be clear from my oath. And I came this day to the well, and said, O Jehovah God of my master Abraham, if now you do prosper my way which I go. Look, I stand by the well of water, and it shall come to pass, that when the virgin comes out to draw water, and I say to her, Give me, now, a little water from your jar to drink. And she says to me, All of you drink, and I will also draw for your camels, let the same be the woman whom Jehovah has appointed out for my master's son. And before I had finished speaking in my heart, then, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder, and she went down to the well, and drew water, and I said to her, Let me drink, now. And she hurried, and let down her jar from her shoulder, and said, Drink, and I will also give to your camels drink. So I drank, and she made the camels to drink also. And I asked her, and said, Whose daughter are you? And she said, The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him, and I put the earring upon her face, and the bracelets upon her hands. And I bowed down my head, and worshipped Jehovah, and blessed Jehovah God of my master Abraham, which had led me in the right way to take my master's brother's daughter to his son. And now if you all will deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, that I may turn to the right hand, or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, The thing comes from Jehovah, we cannot speak to you bad or good. Look, Rebekah is before you, take her, and go, and let her be your master's son's wife, as Jehovah has spoken. And it came to pass, that, when Abraham's servant heard their words, he worshipped Jehovah, bowing himself to the earth. And the servant brought out jewels of silver, and jewels of gold, and clothing, and gave them to Rebekah. He gave also to her brother and to her mother precious things. And they did eat and drink, he and the men that were with him, and stayed all night, and they rose up in the morning, and he said, Send me away to my master. And her brother and her mother said, Let the young woman stay with us a few days, at least 10 days, after that she shall go. And he said to them, Do not hinder me, seeing Jehovah has prospered my way, send me away that I may go to my master. And they said, We will call the young woman, and ask her and she will tell us. And they called Rebekah, and said to her, Will you go with this man? And she said, I will go. And they sent Rebekah their sister away, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant, and his men. And they blessed Rebekah, and said to her, You are our sister, you are the mother of thousands of millions, and let your seed possess the gate of those which hate them. And Rebekah arose, and her young women, and they rode upon the camels, and followed the man, and the servant took Rebekah, and went his way. And Isaac came from the way of the well Lahairoi, for he dwelt in the south country. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field at dusk, and he lifted up his eyes, and saw, and, then, the camels were coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted of the camel. For she had said to the servant, What man is this that walks in the field to meet us? And the servant had said, It is my master, therefore she took a veil, and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Then again Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah. And she bore him Zimran, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shuah. And Jokshan had Sheba, and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were Ashurim, and Letushim, and Leamim. And the sons of Midian, Ephah, and Epher, and Hanok, and Abidah, and Eldat. All these were the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac. But to the sons of the concubines, which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts, and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he still lived, eastward, to the east country. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life which he lived, 175 years. Then Abraham breathed his last, and died in a good old age, an old man, and full of years, and was gathered to his people. And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre. The field which Abraham purchased of the sons of Het, there was Abraham buried, and Sarah his wife. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham, that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt by the well Lahairoi. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bore to Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names, according to their generations, the firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, Hadar, and Tema, Jetur, Napish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names, by their towns, and by their fortresses, 12 princes according to their nations. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years, and he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people. And they dwelt from Havilah to Shur, that is before Egypt, as you go towards Assyria, and he died in the presence of all his brothers. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham had Isaac. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to be his wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian of Padanaram, the sister to Laban the Syrian. And Isaac prayed to Jehovah for his wife, because she was barren, and Jehovah heard him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it is so, why am I so? And she went to inquire of Jehovah. And Jehovah said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 kinds of people shall be separated from your bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, look, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that his brother came out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau, because he ate of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob proudly made soup, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, Feed me, I ask you, with that same red soup, for I am faint, therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, Sell me this day your birthright. And Esau said, Look, I am at the point of dying, and what profit shall this birthright be to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me this day, and he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and soup of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up, and went his way, so Esau despised his birthright. And there was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Abimelech king of the Philistines to Gerar. And Jehovah appeared to him, and said, Do not go down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell you of. Reside in this land, and I will be with you, and will bless you, for to you, and to your seed, I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swore to Abraham your father. And I will make your seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give to your seed all these countries, and in your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice, and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar. And the men of the place asked him of his wife, and he said, She is my sister, for he feared to say, She is my wife, or else, said he, the men of the place should kill me for Rebekah, because she was beautiful to look at. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech king of the Philistines looked out at a window, and saw, and look, Isaac was playing with Rebekah his wife. And Abimelech called Isaac, and said, Look, she surely is your wife, and why did you say, she is my sister? And Isaac said to him, Because I said, or else I die for her. And Abimelech said, What is this you have done to us? One of the people might have easily lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Then Isaac sowed in that land, and received in the same year 100 times, and Jehovah blessed him. And the man became great, and went forward, and grew until he became very great. For he had possession of flocks, and possession of herds, and a great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. For all the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them, and filled them with earth. And Abimelech said to Isaac, Go from us, for you are much mightier than we. And Isaac departed from there, and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar, and dwelt there. And Isaac dug again the wells of water, which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. And Isaac's servants dug in the valley, and found there a well of springing water. And the herdsmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, The water is ours, and he called the name of the well Ezek, because they strove with him. And they dug another well, and strove for that also, and he called the name of it Sitnah. And he moved from there, and dug another well, and for that they didn't strive, and he called the name of it Rehoboth, and he said, For now Jehovah has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. And he went up from there to Beersheba. And Jehovah appeared to him the same night, and said, I am the God of Abraham your father, do not fear, for I am with you, and will bless you, and multiply your seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he built an altar there, and called upon the name of Jehovah, and pitched his tent there, and there Isaac's servants dug a well. Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar, and Ahuzzath one of his friends, and Phicol the chief captain of his army. And Isaac said to them, Why do you all come to me, seeing you all hate me, and have sent me away from you? And they said, We saw certainly that Jehovah was with you, and we said, Let there be now an oath between us, even between us and you, and let us make a covenant with you. That you will not hurt us, as we have not touched you, and as we have done to you nothing but good, and have sent you away in peace, you are now the blessed of Jehovah. And he made them a feast, and they did eat and drink. And they loaded up early in the morning, and swore to one another, and Isaac then sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And it came to pass on the same day, that Isaac's servants came, and told him concerning the well which they had dug, and said to him, We have found water. And he called it Sheba, therefore the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. And Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Bashemath the daughter of Elon the Hittite. Which was a grief of spirit to Isaac and to Rebekah. And it came to pass, that when Isaac was old, and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son, and said to him, My son, and he said to him, Look, here am I. And he said, Look now, I am old, I don't know the day of my death. Now therefore take now your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field, and hunt for me some venison. And make me savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die. And Rebekah heard it when Isaac spoke to Esau his son. And Esau went to the field to hunt for venison, and to bring it. And Rebekah spoke to Jacob her son, saying, Look, I heard your father speaking to Esau your brother, saying, Bring me venison, and make me savory meat, that I may eat, and bless you before Jehovah before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command you. Go now to the flock, and fetch me from there 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for your father, such that he loves. And you shall bring it to your father, that he may eat, and that he may bless you before his death. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Look, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father will perhaps feel me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver, and I shall bring a curse upon myself, and not a blessing. And his mother said to him, Upon me be your curse, my son, only obey my voice, and go fetch them for me. And he went, and fetched, and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory meat, such as his father loved. And Rebekah took good clothing of her eldest son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands, and on the smooth part of his neck. And she gave the savory meat and the bread, which she had prepared, into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came to his father, and said, My father, and he said, Here I am, who are you, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau your firstborn, I have done according to as you asked me, arise now, sit and eat of my venison, that your soul may bless me. And Isaac said to his son, How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because Jehovah your God brought it to me. And Isaac said to Jacob, Come near now, that I may feel you, my son, whether you are my very son Esau or not. And Jacob went near to Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he didn't discern him, because his hands were hairy, as his brother Esau's hands, so he blessed him. And he said, Are you my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless you. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said to him, Come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near, and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his clothing, and blessed him, and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field which Jehovah has blessed. Therefore God give you of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve you, and nations bow down to you, be lord over your brothers, and let your mother's sons bow down to you, cursed be everyone that curses you, and blessed be everyone that blesses you. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob was scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also had made savory meat, and brought it to his father, and said to his father, Let my father arise, and eat of his son's venison, that your soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said to him, Who are you? And he said, I am your son, your firstborn Esau. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, and said, Who? Where is he that has taken venison, and brought it to me, and I have eaten all of it before you came, and have blessed him? Also, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said to his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, Your brother came deceitfully, and has taken away your blessing. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times, he took away my birthright, and look, now he has taken away my blessing. And he said, Have you not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said to Esau, Look, I have made him your lord, and all his brothers have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him, and what shall I do now to you, my son? And Esau said to his father, Have you only one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice, and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said to him, Look, your dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by your sword shall you live, and shall serve your brother, and it shall come to pass when you shall have the dominion, that you shall break his yoke from off your neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing that his father blessed him, and Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand, then will I kill my brother Jacob. And these words of Esau her elder son were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob her younger son, and said to him, Look, your brother Esau does comfort himself, purposing to kill you. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice, and arise, flee to Laban my brother to Haran. And stay with him a few days, until your brother's fury turns away. Until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets that which you have done to him, then I will send, and fetch you from there. Why should I be bereaved of both of you in one day? And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of hate. If Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of hate, such as these which are of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me? And Isaac called Jacob, and blessed him, and charged him, and said to him, You shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padanaram, to the house of Bethuel your mother's father, and you take a wife from there of the daughters of Laban your mother's brother. And God Almighty bless you, and make you fruitful, and multiply you, that you may be an abundance of people. And give you the blessing of Abraham, to you, and to your seed with you, that you may inherit the land in which you are a stranger, which God gave to Abraham. And Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went to Padanaram to Laban, son of Bethuel the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob's and Esau's mother. When Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob, and sent him away to Padanaram, to take a wife from there, and that as he blessed him he gave him a charge, saying, You shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother, and had gone to Padanaram. And Esau seeing that the daughters of Canaan did not please Isaac his father. Then Esau went to Ishmael, and took to the wives which he had Mahalath the daughter of Ishmael Abraham's son, the sister of Nebajoth, to be his wife. And Jacob went out from Beersheba, and went towards Haran. And he came to a certain place, and stayed there all night, because the sun had set, and he took of the stones of that place, and put them for his pillows, and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, and there the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And, there, Jehovah stood above it, and said, I am Jehovah God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land where you lie, I will give it to you, and to your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread outside to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south, and in you and in your seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And look, I am with you, and will keep you in all places wherever you go, and will bring you again into this land, for I will not leave you, until I have done that which I have spoken of to you. And Jacob awoke out of his sleep, and he said, Surely Jehovah is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid, and said, How dreadful is this place! This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. And Jacob rose up early in the morning, and took the stone that he had put for his pillows, and set it up for a pillar, and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of that city was called Luz at first. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, If God will be with me, and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat, and clothing to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall Jehovah be my God. And this stone, which I have set for a pillar, shall be God's house, and of all that you shall give me I will surely give the tenth to you. Then Jacob went on his journey, and came into the land of the people of the east. And he looked, and there was a well in the field, and, look, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it, for out of that well they watered the flocks, and a great stone was upon the well's mouth. And to there were all the flocks gathered, and they rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the sheep, and put the stone again upon the well's mouth in its place. And Jacob said to them, My brothers, where are you all from? And they said, We are of Haran. And he said to them, Do you all know Laban the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said to them, Is he well? And they said, He is well, and look, Rachel his daughter is coming with the sheep. And he said, Look, it is yet high day, neither is it time that the cattle should be gathered together, all of you water the sheep, and go and feed them. And they said, We cannot, until all the flocks are gathered together, until they roll the stone from the well's mouth, then we water the sheep. And while he still spoke with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel the daughter of Laban his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban his mother's brother, that Jacob went near, and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice, and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. And it came to pass, when Laban heard the news of Jacob his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, Surely you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him a month. And Laban said to Jacob, Because you are my brother, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters, the name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had soft eyes, but Rachel was beautiful and well favored. And Jacob loved Rachel, and said, I will serve you 7 years for Rachel your younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to you, than that I should give her to another man, remain with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him just a few days, for the love he had towards her. And Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go into her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place, and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening, that he took Leah his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went into her. And Laban gave to his daughter Leah Zilpah his maid for a handmaid. And it came to pass, that in the morning, it was Leah, and he said to Laban, What is this you have done to me? Did I not serve with you for Rachel? Why then have you betrayed me? And Laban said, It must not be done in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give you this also for the service which you shall serve with me yet another 7 years. And Jacob did so, and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel his daughter to also wife. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah his handmaid to be her maid. And he went in also to Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet another 7 years. And when Jehovah saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived, and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, Surely Jehovah has looked upon my affliction, now therefore my husband will love me. And she conceived again, and bore a son, and said, Because Jehovah has heard that I was hated, he has therefore given me the son also, and she called his name Simeon. And she conceived again, and bore a son, and said, Now this time will my husband be joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons, therefore was his name called Levi. And she conceived again, and bore a son, and she said, Now will I praise Jehovah, therefore she called his name Judah, and stopped bearing. And when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said to Jacob, Give me children, or else I will die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I instead of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? And she said, Look, my maid Bilhah, go into her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. And she gave him Bilhah her handmaid to wife, and Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived, and bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God has judged me, and has also heard my voice, and has given me a son, therefore she called his name Dan. And Bilhah Rachel's maid conceived again, and bore Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, With great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed, and she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped bearing, she took Zilpah her maid, and gave her to Jacob to wife. And Zilpah Leah's maid bore Jacob a son. And Leah said, A troop comes, and she called his name Gad. And Zilpah Leah's maid bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, Happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed, and she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me now, of your son's mandrakes. And she said to her, Is it a small matter that you have taken my husband? And would you take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, You must come into me, for surely I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And God listened to Leah, and she conceived, and bore Jacob a 5th son. And Leah said, God has given me my hire, because I have given my handmaiden to my husband, and she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and bore Jacob a 6th son. And Leah said, God has gifted me with a good gift, now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons, and she called his name Zebulun. And afterwards she bore a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived, and bore a son, and said, God has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, and said, Jehovah shall add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, Send me away, that I may go to my own place, and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know my service which I have done for you. And Laban said to him, Now, if I have found favor in your eyes, stay, for I have learned by divination that Jehovah has blessed me for your sake. And he said, Appoint me your wages, and I will give it. And he said to him, You know how I have served you, and how your cattle were with me. For it was little which you had before I came, and it is now increased to an abundance, and Jehovah has blessed you since my coming, and now what shall I also provide for my own house? And he said, What shall I give you? And Jacob said, You shall not give me anything. If you will do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep your flock. I will pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hire before your face, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, Look, may it be according to your word. And he removed that day the he-goats that were striped and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took to himself rods of green poplar, and of the hazel and a chestnut tree, and pilled white stripes in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had pilled before the flocks in the gutters in the watering troughs when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought out cattle striped, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks towards the striped, and all the brown in the flock of Laban, and he put his own flocks by themselves, and did not put them into Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whenever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he did not put them in, so the weaker ones were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had many cattle, and maidservants, and menservants, and camels, and male donkeys. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's has he gathered all that glory. And Jacob looked at the countenance of Laban, and, there, it was not towards him as before. And Jehovah said to Jacob, Return to the land of your fathers, and to your relations, and I will be with you. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flock. And said to them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not towards me as before, but the God of my father has been with me. And you both know that with all my power I have served your father. And your father has deceived me, and changed my wages 10 times, but God did not give me to him to hurt me. If he said so, the speckled shall be your wages, then all the cattle bore speckled, and if he said so, the striped shall be your hire, then bore all the cattle striped. So God has taken away the cattle of your father, and given them to me. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up my eyes, and saw in a dream, and, there, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were striped, speckled, and spotted. And the angel of God spoke to me in a dream, saying, Jacob, and I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift up now your eyes, and see, all the rams which leap upon the cattle are striped, speckled, and spotted, for I have seen all that Laban does to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar, and where you vowed a vow to me. Now arise, get yourself out from this land, and return to the land of your relatives. And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted of him strangers? For he has sold us, and has totally spent our silver. For all the riches which God has taken from our father, that is ours, and our children's. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do. Then Jacob rose up, and set his sons and his wives upon camels. And he carried away all his cattle, and all his goods which he had gathered, the cattle of his gathering, which he had gathered in Padanaram, to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the idols that were her father's. And Jacob secretly carried away from Laban the Syrian's heart, in that he did not tell him that he fled. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up, and passed over the river, and set his face towards Mount Gilead. And it was told Laban on the 3rd day that Jacob had fled. And he took his relations with him, and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and they overtook him in Mount Gilead. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and said to him, Beware that you do not speak to Jacob either good or bad. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountain, and Laban with his relations pitched in the mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What have you done, that you have secretly taken from my heart, and carried away my daughters, as captives taken with the sword? Why did you flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and did not tell me, that I might have sent you away with mirth, and with songs, with tambourine, and with harp? And you have not let me kiss my sons and my daughters? You have now done foolishly in so doing. It is in the power of my hand to hurt you, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, You beware that you do not speak to Jacob either good or bad. And now, though you speedily have gone, because you so longed after your father's house, yet why have you stolen my gods? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Perhaps you would by force take your daughters from me. With whomever you find your gods, let that person not live. Before our relations discern for yourself what is yours with me, and take it for yourself. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the two maidservants' tents, but he did not find them. Then he went out of Leah's tent, and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the images, and put them in the camel's saddle, and sat upon them. And Laban searched all of the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, Let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise up before you, for the custom of women is upon me. And he searched, but did not find the images. And Jacob was angry, and rebuked Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, What is my trespass? What is my sin, that you have so hotly pursued after me? For you have searched all my stuff. What have you found of all your household stuff? Set it here before my relations and your relations, that they may judge between us both. For 20 years have I been with you, your ewes and your she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of your flock I have not eaten. That which was torn of beasts I did not bring to you, I bore the loss of it, of my hand did you require it, whether stolen by day, or stolen by night. So I was, in the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. So I have been 20 years in your house, I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your cattle, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac, had been with me, surely you would have sent me away now empty. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you last night. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that you see is mine. And what can I do this day to these my daughters, or to their children which they have borne? Now you come, let us make a covenant, I and you, and let it be for a witness between me and you. And Jacob took a stone, and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said to his relations, Gather stones, and they took stones, and made a heap, and they ate there upon the heap. And Laban called it Jegar-Sahadutha, but Jacob called it Galeed. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and you this day. Therefore was the name of it called Galeed. And Mizpah, for he said, Jehovah watch between me and you, when we are absent one from another. If you shall afflict my daughters, or if you shall take other wives beside my daughters, no man is with us, see, God is witness between me and you. And Laban said to Jacob, Look this heap, and look this pillar, which I have cast between me and you. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not pass over this heap to you, and that you shall not pass over this heap and this pillar to me, for harm. The God of Abraham, and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mountain, and called his relations to eat bread, and they did eat bread, and stayed all night in the mountain. And early in the morning Laban rose up, and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them, and Laban departed, and returned to his place. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, This is God's host, and he called the name of that place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother to the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, So shall you all speak to my lord Esau, your servant Jacob says so, I have resided with Laban, and stayed there until now. And I have oxen, and male donkeys, flocks, and menservants, and maidservants, and I have sent to tell my lord, that I may find grace in your sight. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to your brother Esau, and also he is coming to meet you with 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that were with him, and the flocks and herds and the camels, into 2 camps. And said, If Esau comes to the one company, and strikes it, then the other company which is left shall escape. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, Jehovah who said to me, return to your country, and to your relations, and I will deal well with you. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies, and of all the truth, which you have shown to your servant, for with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I have become two camps. Deliver me, now, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, or else he will come and strike me, and the mother with the children. And you said, I will surely do you good, and make your seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for abundance. And he lodged there that same night, and took that which came to his hand as a present for Esau his brother. 200 she-goats, and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams. 30 milk camels with their colts, 40 cows, and 10 bulls, 20 she-donkeys, and 10 foals. And he delivered them into the hand of his servants, every drove by themselves, and said to his servants, pass over before me, and put a space between drove and drove. And he commanded the foremost, saying, when Esau my brother meets you, and asks you, saying, who are you? And where are you going? And whose are these before you? Then you shall say, they are your servant Jacob's, it is a present sent to my lord Esau, and look, also he is behind us. And so he commanded the second, and the third, and all that followed the droves, saying, this word shall you all speak to Esau, when you all find him. And also all of you say, look, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goes before me, and afterwards I will see his face, perhaps he will accept me. So he sent the present over before him, and he stayed that night in the company. And he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 maidservants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them, and sent them over the river, and sent over all that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there he wrestled with the man until the daybreak. And when he saw that he did not prevail against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh went out of joint, as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. And he said, I will not let you go, except you bless me. And he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, your name shall be called Jacob no more, but Israel, for as a prince have you power with God and with men, and have prevailed. And Jacob asked him, and said, tell me now, your name. And he said, why is it that you ask after my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he passed over Penuel, the sun rose upon him, and he limped upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel do not eat of the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, to this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank. And Jacob lifted up his eyes, and looked, and, then, Esau came, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children to Leah, and to Rachel, and to the 2 handmaids. And he put the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph last. And he passed over before them, and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him, and embraced him, and fell on his neck, and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw the women and the children, and said, who are those with you? And he said, the children which God has graciously given your servant. Then the handmaidens came near, they and their children, and they bowed themselves. And Leah also with her children came near, and bowed themselves, and after them came Joseph near and Rachel, and they bowed themselves. And he said, what do you mean by all this drove which I met? And he said, these are to find grace in the sight of my Lord. And Esau said, I have enough, my brother, keep that you have to yourself. And Jacob said, no, now, if I have found grace in your sight, then receive my present at my hand, for I have seen your face, as though I had seen the face of God, and you were pleased with me. Take, now, my blessing that is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. And he urged him, and he took it. And he said, let us take our journey, and let us go, and I will go before you. And he said to him, my Lord knows that the children are tender, and the flocks and herds that are with young are with me, and if men should overdrive them one day, all the flock will die. Let my Lord, now, pass over before his servant, and I will lead on softly, according to as the cattle that goes before me, and the children will be able to endure, until I come to my Lord to Seir. And Esau said, Let me now leave with you some of the folk that are with me. And he said, Why this? Let me find grace in the sight of my Lord. So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Sukkah, and built himself a house, and made booths for his cattle, therefore the name of the place is called Sukkah. And Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Padanaram, and pitched his tent before the city. And he bought a parcel of a field, where he had spread his tent, at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of silver. And he erected there an altar, and called it Elelahi-Israel. And Dinah the daughter of Leah, which she bore to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her, and lay with her, and humbled her. And his soul was joined to Dinah the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the young woman, and spoke kindly to the young woman. And Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, Get me this young woman for a wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob kept silent until they had come. And Hamor the father of Shechem went out to Jacob to speak with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very angry, because he had done foolishly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing should not have been done. And Hamor spoke with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter, now give her to him as a wife. And make all of you marry with us, and give your daughters to us, and take our daughters to yourselves. And you all shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you, dwell and trade all of you there, and get your possessions there. And Shechem said to her father and to her brothers, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what you all shall say to me I will give it. Quickly multiply upon me a dowry and gift, and I will give according as you all shall say to me, but give me the young woman as a wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father speaking deceitfully, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said to them, We cannot do this thing, to give our sister to someone that is uncircumcised, for that would be a reproach to us. But in this will we consent to you, if you all will be as we are, that every male of yours be circumcised. Then will we give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if all of you will not listen to us, to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we will go. And their words pleased Hamor, and Shechem Hamor's son. And the young man did not delay to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. And Hamor and Shechem his son came to the gate of their city, and spoke with the men of their city, saying, These men are peaceable with us, therefore let them dwell in the land, and trade there, for the land, look, it is large enough for them, let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only in this will the men consent to us for to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us is circumcised, as they are circumcised. Shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent to them, and they will dwell with us. And to Hamor and to Shechem his son they all listened that went out of the gate of his city, and every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of his city. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were in pain, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took each his sword, and came upon the city boldly, and killed all the males. And they killed Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and plundered the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their sheep, and their oxen, and their male donkeys, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field. And all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives they took captive, and plundered even all that was within the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, You both have troubled me to make me stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I am few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me, and kill me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, Should he have dealt with our sister as with a prostitute? And God said to Jacob, Arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there, and make there an altar to God, who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother. Then Jacob said to his household, and to all that were with him, Put away the strange gods that are among you, and be clean, and change your garments. And let us arise, and go up to Bethel, and I will make there an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. And they gave to Jacob all the strange gods which were in their hand, and all their earrings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak which was by Shechem. And they journeyed, and the terror of God was upon the cities that were round about them, and they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. So Jacob came to Luz, which is in the land of Canaan, that is, Bethel, he and all the people that were with him. And he built there an altar, and called the place El Bethel, because there God appeared to him, when he fled from the face of his brother. But Deborah Rebekah's nurse died, and she was buried beneath Bethel under an oak, and the name of it was called Allon-Bishuth. And God appeared to Jacob again, when he came out of Padanaram, and blessed him. And God said to him, Your name is Jacob, your name shall not be called Jacob any more, but Israel shall be your name, and he called his name Israel. And God said to him, I am God Almighty, be fruitful and multiply, a nation and a company of nations shall be from you, and kings shall come out of your loins. And the land which I gave Abraham and Isaac, I will give it to you, and I will give the land to your seed after you. And God went up from him in the place where he talked with him. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he talked with him, even a pillar of stone, and he poured a drink offering on it, and he poured oil on it. And Jacob called the name of the place where God spoke with him, Bethel. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was still a little way to go to Ephrath, and Rachel travailed, and she had hard labor. And it came to pass, when she was in hard labor, that the midwife said to her, Do not fear, you shall also have this son. And it came to pass, as her soul was departing, for she died, that she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. And Rachel died, and was buried on the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. And Jacob set a pillar upon her grave, that is the pillar of Rachel's grave to this day. And Israel journeyed, and spread his tent beyond the tower of Edar. And it came to pass, when Israel dwelt in that land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah his father's concubine, and Israel heard it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon, and Levi, and Judah, and Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. And the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, Dan, and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, Gad, and Asher, these are the sons of Jacob, which were born to him in Padanaram. And Jacob came to Isaac his father to Mamre, to the city of Arba, which is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac resided. And the days of Isaac were 180 years. And Isaac breathed his last, and died, and was gathered to his people, being old and full of days, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took to himself wives of the daughters of Canaan, Adah the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Aholibamah the daughter of Anna the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite. And Bashemath Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebajoth. And Adah bore to Esau Eliphaz, and Bashemath bore Reuel. And Aholibamah bore Jeush, and Jalam, and Korah, these are the sons of Esau, which were born to him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his wives, and his sons, and his daughters, and all the people of his house, and his cattle, and all his beasts, and all his substance, which he had gathered in the land of Canaan, and went into the country away from the face of his brother Jacob. For their riches were more than that they might dwell together, and the land where they were strangers could not bear them because of their cattle. So Esau dwelt in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. And these are the generations of Esau the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons, Eliphaz the son of Adah the wife of Esau, Reuel the son of Bashemath the wife of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Taman, Omar, Zepho, and Godum, and Kenaz. And Timnah was a concubine to Eliphaz Esau's son, and she bore to Eliphaz Amalek, these were the sons of Adah Esau's wife. And these are the sons of Reuel, Nahaz, and Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah, these were the sons of Bashemath Esau's wife. And these were the sons of Aholibamah, the daughter of Anna the daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife, and she bore to Esau Jeush, and Jalam, and Korah. These were chiefs of the sons of Esau, the sons of Eliphaz the firstborn son of Esau, chief Taman, chief Omar, chief Zepho, chief Kenaz, chief Korah, chief Godum, and chief Amalek, these are the chiefs that came of Eliphaz in the land of Edom, these were the sons of Adah. And these are the sons of Reuel Esau's son, chief Nahaz, chief Zerah, chief Shammah, chief Mizah, these are the chiefs that came of Reuel in the land of Edom, these are the sons of Bashemath Esau's wife. And these are the sons of Aholibamah Esau's wife, chief Jeush, chief Jalam, chief Korah, these were the chiefs that came of Aholibamah the daughter of Anah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these are their chiefs. These are the sons of Seir the Horite, who inhabited the land, Lotan, and Shobal, and Zibeon, and Anah, and Dishon, and Ezer, and Dishan. These are the chiefs of the Horites, the children of Seir in the land of Edom. And the children of Lotan were Hori and Hemam, and Lotan's sister was Timnah. And the children of Shobal were these, Alvan, and Manahaz, and Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. And these are the children of Zibeon, both Ajah, and Anah. This was that Anah that found the mules in the wilderness, as he fed the male donkeys of Zibeon his father. And the children of Anah were these, Dishon, and Aholibamah the daughter of Anah. And these are the children of Dishon, Hemdan, and Eshban, and Ithran, and Cheran. The children of Ezer are these, Bilhan, and Zavan, and Achan. The children of Dishan are these, Uz, and Aaron. These are the chiefs that came from the Horites, chief Lotan, chief Shobal, chief Zibeon, chief Anah, chief Dishon, chief Ezer, and chief Dishan. These are the chiefs that came from Hori, among their chiefs in the land of Seir. And these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom, before there reigned any king over the children of Israel. And Bela the son of Beer reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhabah. And Bela died, and Jobab the son of Zerah of Bozrah reigned instead. And Jobab died, and Husham of the land of Temani reigned instead. And Husham died, and Hadad the son of Bedad, who killed Midian in the field of Moab, reigned instead, and the name of his city was Avith. And Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned instead. And Samlah died, and Saul of Rehoboth by the river reigned instead. And Saul died, and Baal-Hanan the son of Akbor reigned instead. And Baal-Hanan the son of Akbor died, and Hadur reigned instead, and the name of his city was Pau, and his wife's name was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahab. And these are the names of the chiefs that came from Esau, according to their families, after their places, by their names, chief Timnah, chief Alva, chief Jetheth, chief Aholibamah, chief Elah, chief Pinion, chief Kenaz, chief Taman, chief Mibzar, chief Magdiel, chief Iram. These were the chiefs of Edom, according to their habitations in the land of their possession. He is Esau the father of the Edomites. And Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the boy was with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and Joseph brought to his father an evil report of them. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him, and could not speak peaceably to him. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. And he said to them, Hear, now, this dream which I have dreamed. For, look, we were binding sheaves in the field, and, look, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright, and look, your sheaves stood around about, and fell down to my sheaf. And his brothers said to him, Shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him even more for his dreams, and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it to his brothers, and said, Look, I have dreamed another dream, and look, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars fell down to me. And he told it to his father, and to his brothers, and his father rebuked him, and said to him, What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow down ourselves to you to the earth? And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the saying to himself. And his brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, Do not your brothers feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them. And he said to him, Here I am. And he said to him, Go, now, see whether it is well with your brothers, and also well with the flocks, and bring back word to me again. So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and, there, he was wandering in the field, and the man asked him, saying, What do you seek? And he said, I seek my brothers. Tell me, now, where are they feeding their flocks? And the man said, They have departed from here, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brothers, and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him from afar off, even before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. And they said one to another, Look, this dreamer is coming. Therefore, come now, and let us kill him, and cast him into some pit, and we will say, Some evil beast has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said to them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand upon him, that he might get rid of him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. And it came to pass, when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him, and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, because there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and, then, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels bearing spices and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said to his brothers, What profit is it if we kill our brother, and conceal his blood? Come, and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and do not let our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers were content. Then there passed by Midianite merchants, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. And Reuben returned to the pit, and, there, Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. And he returned to his brothers, and said, The child is nothing, and I, where shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat, and killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the coat in its blood. And they took the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and said, This is what we have found, do you know whether it is your son's coat or not? And he knew it, and said, It is my son's coat, an evil beast has devoured him, Joseph is without doubt torn in pieces. And Jacob tore his clothes, and put sackcloth upon his hips, and mourned for his son for many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted, and he said, For I will go down into the grave to my son mourning. So his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold him into Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's, and captain of the guard. And it came to pass at that time, that Judah went down from his brothers, and turned into a certain Adullamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua, and he took her, and went into her. And she conceived, and bore a son, and he called his name Er. And she conceived again, and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived, and bore a son, and called his name Shelah, and he was Echezab, when she bore him. And Judah took a wife for Er his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Er, Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Jehovah, and Jehovah killed him. And Judah said to Onan, Go into your brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to your brother. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his, and it came to pass, when he went into his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, or else he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased Jehovah, so he killed him also. Then Judah said to Tamar his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow at your father's house, till Shelah my son has grown up, for he said, Perhaps he will die also, as his brothers did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in the process of time the daughter of Shua Judah's wife died, and Judah was comforted, and went up to his sheep shearers to Timnath, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. And it was told to Tamar, saying, Look, your father-in-law has gone up to Timnath to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered herself with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnath, for she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him for a wife. When Judah saw her, he thought that she was a prostitute, because she had covered her face. And he turned to her by the way, and said, Come on now, let me come in to you, for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What will you give me, that you may come in to me? And he said, I will send you a kid from the flock. And she said, Will you give me a pledge, till you send it? And he said, What pledge shall I give you? And she said, Your signet, and your bracelets, and your staff that is in your hand. And he gave it to her, and came into her, and she conceived by him. And she arose, and went away, and put away her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adullamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he did not find her. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, Where is the prostitute, who was openly by the wayside? And they said, There was no prostitute in this place. And he returned to Judah, and said, I cannot find her, and also the men of the place said, that there was no prostitute in that place. And Judah said, Let her have it herself, for perhaps we will be ashamed. Look, I sent this kid, and you have not found her. And it came to pass about 3 months after, that it was told to Judah, saying, Tamar your daughter-in-law has been a prostitute, and also, look, she is with child by prostitution. And Judah said, Bring her out, and let her be burnt. When she was brought out, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, By the man, whose these are, am I with child? And she said, Discern, now, whose are these, the signet, and bracelets, and staff? And Judah acknowledged them, and said, She has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah my son. And he did not know her again. And it came to pass in the time of her travail, that, there, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass, when she travailed, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, This came out first. And it came to pass, as he drew back his hand, that, there, his brother came out, and she said, How have you broken through? This breach be upon you, therefore his name was called Horrell. And afterwards came out his brother, that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerah. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down to there. And Jehovah was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that Jehovah was with him, and that Jehovah had made all that he did prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that Jehovah blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of Jehovah was upon all that he had in the house, and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he did not know what he had, except the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a handsome man, and well favored. And it came to pass after these things, that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused, and said to his master's wife, Look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness, and sin against God? And it came to pass, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not listen to her, to lie by her, or to be with her. And it came to pass at about that time, that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house inside there. And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me, and he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and got out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and had fled out, that she called to the men of her house, and spoke to them, saying, See, he has brought in a Hebrew to us to mock us, he came in to me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled, and got out. And she laid up his garment by her, until his lord came home. And she spoke to him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant, which you have brought to us, came in to me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spoke to him, saying, After this thing your servant did to me, that he burned with anger. And Joseph's master took him, and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. But Jehovah was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatever they did there, he did it. The keeper of the prison did not look to anything that was under his hand, because Jehovah was with him, and that which he did, Jehovah made it to prosper. And it came to pass after these things, that the cupbearer of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was angry against 2 of his officers, against the chief of the cupbearers, and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them under guard in the house of the captain of the guard, into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season under guard. And they dreamed a dream both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came into them in the morning, and looked upon them, and, there, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him under guard in his lord's house, saying, Why do you both look so sad today? And they said to him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said to them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them now. And the chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, look, a vine was before me. And in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot out, and the clusters there brought out ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him, This is the interpretation of it, the 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up your head, and restore you to your place, and you shall give Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former ordinance when you were his cupbearer. But remember me when it shall be well with you, and show kindness now to me, and make mention of me to Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said to Joseph, I also was in my dream, and look, I had 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket there were of all kinds of baked foods for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation of it, the 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up your head from off you, and shall hang you on a tree, and the birds shall eat your flesh from off you. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast to all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief cupbearer to his cupbearer office again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hung the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. But the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years, that Pharaoh dreamed, and, there, he stood by the river. And look, there came up out of the river 7 well-formed cows and fat of flesh, and they fed in a meadow. And look, 7 other cows came up after them out of the river, badly formed and lean of flesh, and stood by the other cows upon the edge of the river. And the badly formed and lean of flesh cows did eat up the 7 well-formed and fat cows. So Pharaoh awoke. And he slept and dreamed the 2nd time, and look, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, fat and good. And look, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 fat and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and there, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men there, and Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them to Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my sins this day. Pharaoh was angry with his servants, and put me under guard in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he, we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, a Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard, and we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams, to each man he did interpret according to his dream. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was, he restored me to my office, and he hanged him. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself, and changed his clothing, and came into Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one that can interpret it, and I have heard it said of you, that you can understand a dream and interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me, God shall give Pharaoh an answer for your peace. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, In my dream, look, I stood upon the bank of the river. And look, there came up out of the river 7 cows, fat of flesh and well-formed, and they fed in a meadow. And look, 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very badly formed and lean of flesh, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the badly formed cows did eat up the first 7 fat cows. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still badly formed, as at the beginning. So I awoke. And I saw in my dream, and look, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And look, 7 ears, withered, thin, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears, and I told this to the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one, God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years, the dream is one. And the 7 thin and badly formed cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken to Pharaoh, what God is about to do he has shown to Pharaoh. Look, there is coming 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled to Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh look out for a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be stored in the land for the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land shall not perish through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, Can we find such a person as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God? And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Since God has shown you all this, there is none so discreet and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and according to your word shall all my people be ruled, only in the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in clothing of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride in the 2nd chariot, and they called out before him, Bow the knee, and he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without you shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paneah, and he gave to him a wife Asenath the daughter of Potiphera priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 plentiful years the earth brought out handfuls. And he gathered up all the food from the 7 years, which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities, the food of the field, which were around about every city, he laid up in the middle. And Joseph gathered exceeding amounts of corn as the sand of the sea, until he stopped numbering, because it was without number. And to Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of the famine came, which Asenath the daughter of Potiphera priest of On bore to him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God, he said, has made me forget all my sorrow, and all my father's house. And he named the second and called him Ephraim, for God has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenty, that was in the land of Egypt, had ended. And the 7 years of hunger started coming, according as Joseph said, and the hunger was in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread, and Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, Go to Joseph, what he says to you, do it. And the famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses, and sold to the Egyptians, and the famine became severe in the land of Egypt. And all the countries came into Egypt to Joseph to buy corn, because the famine was so severe in all the lands. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said to his sons, Why do you all look at each other? And he said, Look, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt, get yourselves down there, and buy for us from there, that we may live, and not die. And Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob did not send with his brothers, for he said, Perhaps hurt will happen to him. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, it was he that sold to all the people of the land, and Joseph's brothers came, and bowed themselves down before him with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brothers, and he knew them, but made himself like a stranger to them, and spoke roughly to them, and he said to them, Where did you all come from? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph knew his brothers, but they did not know him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said to them, You are all spies, you all have come here to see the nakedness of the land. And they said to him, No, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all one man's sons, we are true men, your servants are not spies. And he said to them, No, but you have all come here to see the nakedness of the land. And they said, Your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan, and look, the youngest is to this day with our father, and one does not exist. And Joseph said to them, It is what I spoke to you, saying, You are all spies. By this you all shall be tested, by the life of Pharaoh all of you shall not go out of here, except your youngest brother comes here too. Send out one of yourselves, and let him bring your brother, and all of you shall be kept in prison, that your words may be tested, whether there is any truth in yourselves, or else by the life of Pharaoh surely all of you are spies. And he put them all together under guard for 3 days. And Joseph said to them the third day, Do this, and live, for I fear God. If you all are true men, let one of your brothers be bound in the house of your prison, go all of you, carry corn for the famine of your houses. But bring your youngest brother to me, so shall your words be established, and you all shall not die. And they did so. And they said one to another, We are very guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul, when he begged us, and we would not listen, therefore this distress has come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, Did I not speak to you, saying, Do not sin against the child, and all of you would not listen? Therefore, look, also his blood is required. And they did not know that Joseph understood them, for he spoke to them by an interpreter. And he turned himself around from them, and wept, and returned to them again, and talked with them, and took from them Simeon, and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and to restore every man's money into his sack, and to give them provision for the way, and so he did to them. And they loaded their male donkeys with the corn, and departed from there. And as one of them opened his sack to give his male donkey food in the inn, he saw his silver, for, there, it was in his sack's mouth. And he said to his brothers, My silver is restored, and, look, it is even in my sack, and their hearts failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, What is this that God has done to us? And they came to Jacob their father to the land of Canaan, and told him all that had happened to them, saying, The man, who is Lord of the land, spoke roughly to us, and made us out to be spies of their country. And we said to him, We are true men, we are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father, one does not exist, and the youngest is to this day with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, Lord of the country, said to us, This is how I shall know that all of you are true men, leave one of your brothers here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother to me, then shall I know that you all are not spies, but that all of you are true men, so will I give back to you your brother, and then you all shall trade in the land. And it came to pass as they emptied their sacks, that there, every man's bundle of silver was in his sack, and when both they and their father saw the bundles of silver, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said to them, Me have you all bereaved of my children, Joseph does not exist, and Simeon is not here, and all of you will take Benjamin away, all these things are against me. And Reuben spoke to his father, saying, Kill my 2 sons, if I do not bring him to you, give him into my hand, and I will bring him to you again. And he said, My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone, if hurt will happen to him by the way in which all of you go, then shall you all bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. And the famine was severe in the land. And it came to pass, when they had eaten up all the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said to them, Go again, buy us a little food. And Judah spoke to him, saying, The man did solemnly protest to us, saying, All of you shall not see my face, except your brother is with you. If you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy you food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down, for the man said to us, All of you shall not see my face, except your brother is with you. And Israel said, Why did you all deal so badly with me, so as to tell the man that you all had a brother? And they said, The man demanded by asking us of our country, and of our family, saying, Is your father still alive? Have you all another brother? And we told him according to the saying of these words, could we know for certain that he would say, bring your brother down? And Judah said to Israel his father, send the boy with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live, and not die, both we, and you, and also our little ones. I will be security for him, of my hand shall you require him, if I do not bring him to you, and set him before you, then let me always bear the blame. For except we had lingered, surely by now we would have returned a second time. And their father Israel said to them, if it must be so now, do this, take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down to the man a present, a little balm, and a little honey, spices, and myrrh, nuts, and almonds. And take double the silver in your hand, and the silver that was brought back in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand, perhaps it was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise, go again to the man. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother, and Benjamin. If I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. And the men took that present, and they took double the silver in their hand, and Benjamin, and rose up, and went down to Egypt, and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home, and kill, and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph said, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid, because they were brought into Joseph's house, and they said, we have been brought in because of the silver that was returned in our sacks the first time, that he may seek occasion against us, and fall upon us, and take us to be servants, and our male donkeys. And they came near to the man of Joseph's house, and they talked with him at the door of the house. And said, O master, we came indeed down the first time to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to the inn, that we opened our sacks, and look, every man's silver was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hand. And also other silver we have brought down in our hands to buy food, we cannot tell who put our silver in our sacks. And he said, Peace be to you, do not fear, your God, and the God of your father, has given you treasure in your sacks, I had your silver. And he brought Simeon out to them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their male donkeys food. And they made ready the present before Joseph came at noon, for they heard that they would eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their health, and said, Is your father well, the old man of whom all of you spoke? Is he still alive? And they answered, Your servant our father is in good health, he is still alive. And they bowed down their heads, and fell down. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is this your younger brother, of whom you all spoke to me about? And he said, God be gracious to you, my son. And Joseph quickly left, for he deeply longed for his brother, and he looked for where to weep, and he entered into his chamber, and wept there. And he washed his face, and went out, and contained himself, and said, Set the bread. And they set it for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians, which did eat with him, by themselves, because the Egyptians would not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that was an abomination to the Egyptians. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth, and the men marveled at one another. And he took and sent gifts to them from before him, but Benjamin's gifts were 5 times as much as any of theirs. And they drank, and were drunk with him. And he commanded the steward of his house, saying, Fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put every man's silver in his sack's mouth. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his corn silver. And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. At daybreak, the men were sent away, they and their male donkeys. And when they had gone out of the city, and were not far off, Joseph said to his steward, Up, follow after the men, and when you do overtake them, say to them, Why have you all rewarded evil for good? Is not this in which my Lord drinks from, and where indeed he divines by? You all have done evil in so doing. And he overtook them, and he spoke to them these same words. And they said to him, Why does my Lord say these words? Far from it that your servants should do according to this thing. Look, the silver, which we found in our sacks' mouths, we brought again to you out of the land of Canaan, Why then would we steal from out of your Lord's house silver or gold? With whoever of your servants it is found, both let him die, and we also will be my Lord's servants. And he said, Now also let it be according to your words, he with whoever it is found shall be my servant, and you all shall be blameless. Then they speedily took down every one's sack to the ground, and opened every one's sack. And he searched, and began at the eldest, and stopped at the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they ripped their clothes, and every man loaded his male donkey, and returned to the city. And Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, for he was still there, and they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said to them, What action is this that you all have done? Do you not know that such a man as I can certainly divine? And Judah said, What shall we say to my lord? What shall we speak? Or how shall we clear ourselves? God has found out the iniquity of your servants. Look, we are my Lord's servants, both we, and he also with whoever the cup is found. And he said, Far from it that I should do so, but the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant, and as for you, get yourselves up in peace to your father. Then Judah came near to him, and said, O my lord, let your servant, now, speak a word in my lord's ears, and do not let your anger burn against your servant, for you are even as Pharaoh. My lord asked his servants, saying, Have all of you a father, or a brother? And we said to my lord, We have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one, and his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother, and his father loves him. And you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes upon him. And we said to my lord, The boy cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. And you said to your servants, Except your youngest brother come down with you, all of you shall see my face no more. And it came to pass when we came up to your servant my father, we told him the words of my lord. And our father said, Go again, and buy us a little food. And we said, We cannot go down, if our youngest brother is with us, then we will go down, for we may not see the man's face, except our youngest brother is with us. And your servant my father said to us, You all know that my wife bore me 2 sons. And the one went out from me, and I said, Surely he is torn in pieces, and I have not seen him since. And if you all take this also from me, and hurt happens to him, you all shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Now therefore when I come before your servant my father, and the boy is not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the boy's life. It shall come to pass, when he sees that the boy is not with us, that he will die, and your servants shall bring down the gray hairs of your servant our father with sorrow to the grave. For your servant became security for the boy to my father, saying, If I do not bring him to you, then I shall bear the blame to my father forever. Now therefore, now, let your servant remain instead of the boy a servant to my lord, and let the boy go up with his brothers. For how shall I go up to my father, and the boy is not with me? Or else perhaps I see the evil that shall come on my father. Then Joseph could not contain himself before all of them that stood by him, and he cried, Cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph, does my father still live? And his brothers could not answer him, for they trembled in his presence. And Joseph said to his brothers, Come near to me, now. And they came near. And he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom you all sold into Egypt. Now therefore do not be grieved, or angry with yourselves, that you all sold me to here, for God did send me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years has the famine been in the land, and yet there are still 5 years, in which there shall be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you a remainder in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me here, but God, and he has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Quickly, all of you, and go up to my father, and say to him, So says your son Joseph, God has made me lord of all Egypt, come down to me, do not stay. And you shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near to me, you and your children, and your children's children, and your flocks, and your herds, and all that you have. And there will I nourish you, for still there are 5 years of famine, unless you, and your household, and all that you have, come to poverty. And look, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my mouth that speaks to you. And you all shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and of all that all of you have seen, and you all shall hurry and bring down my father here. And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck, and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. And he kissed all his brothers, and wept upon them, and after that his brothers talked with him. And the call there was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brothers have come, and it was pleasing in Pharaoh's eyes, and his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Say to your brothers, Do this all of you, load your beasts, and go, get yourselves to the land of Canaan. And take your father and your households, and come to me, and I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you all shall eat the fat of the land. Now you are commanded, this shall you all do, take you wagons out of the land of Egypt for your little ones, and for your wives, and bring your father, and come. Also do not regard your stuff, for the good of all the land of Egypt is yours. And the children of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons, according to the commandment of Pharaoh, and gave them provision for the way. To all of them he gave each man changes of clothing, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver, and 5 changes of clothing. And to his father he sent this, 10 male donkeys loaded with the good things of Egypt, and 10 she-donkeys loaded with corn and bread and food for his father on the way. So he sent his brothers away, and they departed, and he said to them, See that all of you are not afraid on the way. And they went up out of Egypt, and came into the land of Canaan to Jacob their father. And told him, saying, Joseph is still alive, and he is governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart fainted, for he did not believe them. And they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said to them, and when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. And Israel said, It is enough, Joseph my son is still alive, I will go and see him before I die. And Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here I am. And he said, I am God, the God of your father, do not fear to go down into Egypt, for I will make of you there a great nation. I will go down with you into Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again, and Joseph shall put his hand on your eyes. And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, and their little ones, and their wives, in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. And they took their cattle, and their goods, which they had gathered in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt, Jacob and all his seed with him. His sons, and his sons' sons with him, his daughters, and his sons' daughters, and all his seed he brought with him into Egypt. And these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt, Jacob and his sons, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn. And the sons of Reuben, Hanok and Phalu and Hezron, and Carmi. And the sons of Simeon, Jemuel and Jamin and Ahad, and Jachin, and Zohar, and Shaul the son of a Canaanitish woman. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohaz, and Merari. And the sons of Judah, Er and Onan and Shelah, and Phareh, and Zerah, but Er and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Phareh were Hezron and Hamel. And the sons of Issachar, Tola and Phuvah and Job, and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun, Sered, and Elon, and Yaliel. These are the sons of Leah, which she bore to Jacob in Padanaram, with his daughter Dinah. All the souls of his sons and his daughters were 33. And the sons of Gad, Ziphion, and Haggai, Shani, and Esban, Eri, and Arodi, and Areli. And the sons of Asher, Jimnah, and Ishua, and Isui, and Beriah, and Sarah their sister, and the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Malchiel. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter, and she bore these to Jacob, even 16 souls. The sons of Rachel Jacob's wife, Joseph, and Benjamin. And to Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, which Asenath the daughter of Potipharah priest of On bore to him. And the sons of Benjamin were Bela, and Becher, and Ashbel, Gera, and Naaman, Ai, and Rosh, Muppim, and Huppim, and Ard. These are the sons of Rachel, which were born to Jacob, all the souls were 14. And the sons of Dan, Hushim. And the sons of Naphtali, Yaziel, and Guni, and Jezer, and Shillem. These are the sons of Bilhah, which Laban gave to Rachel his daughter, and she bore these to Jacob, all the souls were 7. All the souls that came with Jacob into Egypt, which came out of his loins, besides Jacob's sons' wives, all the souls were 66. And the sons of Joseph, which were born to him in Egypt, were 2 souls, all the souls of the house of Jacob, which came into Egypt, were 70. And he sent Judah before him to Joseph, to direct his face to Goshen, and they came into the land of Goshen. And Joseph made his chariot ready, and went up to meet Israel his father at Goshen, and presented himself to him, and he fell on his neck, and wept on his neck repeatedly. And Israel said to Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen your face, because you are still alive. And Joseph said to his brothers, and to his father's house, I will go up, and show Pharaoh, and say to him, My brothers, and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, have come to me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade has been to feed cattle, and they have brought their flocks, and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call you, and shall say, What is your occupation? That you shall all say, Your servant's trade has been about cattle from our youth even until now, both we, and also our fathers, that you all may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination to the Egyptians. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh, and said, My father and my brothers, and their flocks, and their herds, and all that they have come out of the land of Canaan, and look, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took some of his brothers, 5 men, and presented them to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to his brothers, What is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, Your servants are shepherds, both we, and also our fathers. They also said to Pharaoh, Also to reside in the land that we have come to, for your servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now then, now, let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, Your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you, in the best of the land you can make your father and brothers to dwell, in the land of Goshen let them dwell, and if you know any men of ability among them, then make them rulers over my cattle. And Joseph brought in Jacob his father, and stood him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, How old are you? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years, few and evil have the days of the years of my life been, and have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph placed his father and his brothers, and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph nourished his father, and his brothers, and all his father's household, with bread, according to their families. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very severe, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted because of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the silver that was found in the land of Egypt, and in the land of Canaan, for the corn which they bought, and Joseph brought the silver into Pharaoh's house. And when the silver was spent in the land of Egypt, and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph, and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the silver was spent. And Joseph said, Give your cattle, and I will give for your cattle, if silver has been spent. And they brought their cattle to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the male donkeys, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. When that year was ended, they came to him the second year, and said to him, We will not hide it from my lord, how that our money is spent, my lord also has our herds of cattle, there is nothing left in the sight of my lord, but our bodies, and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants to Pharaoh, and give us seed, that we may live, and not die, that the land will not be desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them, so the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he moved them to cities from one end of the borders of Egypt even to the other end of it. Only he did not buy the land of the priests, for the priests had a portion assigned to them by Pharaoh, and they ate their portion which Pharaoh gave them, so they did not sell their lands. Then Joseph said to the people, Look, I have bought you today and your land for Pharaoh, look, here is seed for you, and you all shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the increase, that you all shall give the 5th part to Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be your own, for seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of your households, and for food for your little ones. And they said, You have saved our lives, let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt to this day, that Pharaoh should have the fifth part, except for only the land of the priests, which did not become Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions there, and grew, and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, so the whole age of Jacob was 147 years. And the time approached that Israel must die, and he called his son Joseph, and said to him, If now I have found grace in your sight, put, now, your hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me, do not bury me, now, in Egypt. But I will lie with my fathers, and you shall carry me out of Egypt, and bury me in their burial place. And he said, I will do as you have said. And he said, Swear to me. And he swore to him. And Israel bowed himself upon the bed's head. And it came to pass after these things, that someone told Joseph, Look, your father is sick, and he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And someone told Jacob, and said, Look, your son Joseph is coming to you, and Israel strengthened himself, and sat up on the bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me. And said to me, Look, I will make you fruitful, and multiply you, and I will make of you an abundance of people, and will give this land to your seed after you for an everlasting possession. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you into Egypt, are mine, as Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. And your issue, which you have after them, shall be yours, and shall be called after the name of their brothers in their inheritance. And as for me, when I came from Padan, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan in the way, when there was still a little way to go to Ephrath, and I buried her there in the way of Ephrath, the same is Bethlehem. And Israel looked at Joseph's sons, and said, Who are these? And Joseph said to his father, They are my sons, whom God has given me in this place. And he said, Bring them, now, to me, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near to him, and he kissed them, and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I had not thought to see your face, and, look, God has shown me also your seed. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near to him. And Israel stretched out his right hand, and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wisely, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph, and said, God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, the God which fed me all my life long to this day. The angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the boys, and let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into an abundance in the center of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held up his father's hand, to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. And Joseph said to his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn, put your right hand upon his head. And his father refused, and said, I know it, my son, I know it, he also shall become a people, and he also shall be great, but truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become an abundance of nations. And he blessed them that day, saying, In you shall Israel bless, saying, God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh, and he put Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said to Joseph, Look, I will die, but God shall be with you, and bring you again to the land of your fathers. Also I have given to you one portion above your brothers, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. And Jacob called to his sons, and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall fall upon you in the last days. Gather yourselves together, and hear, all of you, sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellence of dignity, and the excellence of power. Unstable as water, you shall not excel, because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it, he went up to my bed. Simeon and Levi are brothers, instruments of cruelty are in their weapons. O my soul, do not go into their secret, do not let my honor be united in their assembly, for in their anger they killed a man, and in their pleasure they dug down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their rage, for it was cruel, I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. Judah, your brothers shall praise, your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies, your father's children shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's cub, from the prey, my son, you have gone up, he stooped down, he crouched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, or a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him shall the people gather. Binding his foal to the vine, and his male donkey's colt to the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. Zebulun shall dwell at the seaside, and he shall be a seaside of ships, and his border shall be to Zidon. Issachar is a strong male donkey crouching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant to tribute. Dan shall judge his people, as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that bites the horse's heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. I have waited for your salvation, O Jehovah. Gad, an army shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the end. Out of Asher shall his bread be fat, and he shall give royal delicacies. Naphtali is a female deer let loose, he gives good words. Joseph is a fruitful branch, even a fruitful branch by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have severely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. But his bow remains in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob, from there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Even by the God of your father, who shall help you, and by the Almighty, who shall bless you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lay under, blessings of the breasts, and of the womb. The blessings of your father have prevailed above the blessings of my ancestors to the limit of the everlasting hills, they shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separated from his brothers. Benjamin shall tear to pieces like a wolf, in the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the prey. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father spoke to them, and blessed them, every one according to his blessing he blessed them. And he charged them, and said to them, I am to be gathered to my people, bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite. In the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burial place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife, there they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is there was from the children of Het. And when Jacob finished commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed, and breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. And Joseph fell upon his father's face, and wept upon him, and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants the physicians to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. And 40 days were fulfilled for him, so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed, and the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spoke to the house of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, now, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Look, I am dying, in my grave which I have dug for myself in the land of Canaan, you bury me there. Now therefore let me go up, now, and bury my father, and I will return. And Pharaoh said, Go up, and bury your father, according to what he made you swear. And Joseph went up to bury his father, and also with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt. And all the house of Joseph, and his brothers, and his father's house, only their little ones, and their flocks, and their herds, they left in the land of Goshen. And also there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan, and there they mourned with a great and very grievous lamentation, and he made a mourning for his father for 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians, therefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan. And his sons did to him accordingly as he commanded them. For his sons carried him into the land of Canaan, and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham bought with the field for a possession of a burial place of Ephron the Hittite, before Mamre. And Joseph returned to Egypt, he, and his brothers, and all that went up with him to bury his father, after he had buried his father. And when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, Joseph will perhaps hate us, and will certainly return on us all the evil which we did to him. And they sent a messenger to Joseph, saying, Your father did command before he died, saying, So shall you all say to Joseph, Forgive, now then, the trespass your brothers, and their sin, for they did evil to you, and now, we ask, forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of your father. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. And his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, Look, we are your servants. And Joseph said to them, Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, you all thought evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save alive a great many people. Now therefore do not fear any of you, I will nourish you, and your little ones. And he comforted them, and spoke kindly to them. And Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he, and his father's house, and Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the third generation, the children also of Machir the son of Manasseh were brought up upon Joseph's knees. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am dying, and God will surely visit you, and bring you out of this land to the land which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you all shall carry up my bones from here. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt.